Hello. Um, can you hear me properly? Does the microphone work well? Welcome to the stream. I see there is one concurrent viewer, so that's a step up from 0, of course. So today we're going to talk a bit about the plans for HoYoStans. We have a lot of stuff going on, a lot of work to do, and a lot of time that needs to be put into that. So the news segment will be relatively short, I think. I have my chat popped out. I should be able to see it if someone talks. So yeah. So the first thing I would like to mention, this is also for the people who are watching this stream in post, because I'm aware this is pretty bad time of the day for most people. The first thing we are going to talk about is the new Operation Gecko update. So the current update for Operation Gecko has gone into the second part of the Bronia introduction story. And right now we are at a point where the story veers off into a different direction. As you may well be aware, there are some connections between Guns Girl Z and Honkai Impact 3rd. And this is where we're going to start going into stuff that isn't in Honkai Impact 3rd. Although we do need to revise our story order document. So I'm going to show you something real quick. Let me just open this up real quick. So in order to kind of keep things organized, we have a document we use to keep track of the order of the story. And this is not an easy task, because we are talking about content from 8 years ago. 8 years ago, that ain't recent. That's stuff from a long time ago. Most of it is not documented. A lot of the info is available on Weibo, but Weibo is, as you may know, not easily accessible from the West. You need to have a proper account system set up. You need a Chinese identity, stuff like that. Let me just pop up the window capture for the stream so I can share my view. Window capture, okay. Yeah, this is the one. So as you can see here, this is the story order document. You can see the content for the updates we have done written down. Currently we are at 3.0, so this is no longer correct, the chapter numbers. But the next part is a special little thing, which is a miniature light novel posted by MiHoYo 8 years ago, in 2014. And I have the link here, so I should be able to open it up for you. So this is an old Weibo post we found. Let's turn off the machine translation. And this is a miniature light novel. So this is mostly dialogue and an image, of course. And we will be translating this whole thing. Of course, the machine translation does help quite a lot, but we need to clean everything up. And we will be pouring that into the Operation Gecko visual novel in the appropriate format. So we can't put this in a normal dialogue format, it's more narrative. So we will be using the novel function in RemPy probably. We do need to look at how exactly that'll work. Then next up we have written down here Kaguya World Boss. So Kaguya is one of the two characters you see in the thumbnail for the stream. The issue with that is that today we were looking at some more info regarding it, and we discovered that this story order does not really check out. The Kaguya World Boss is supposed to come way later in the story. It doesn't fit here. So it's not really certain how we are going to deal with that. Then again, it might also be a display issue with the cutscene interpreter showing the wrong scene. I'm not sure of that. We're gonna have to look into the details more. The person who has mostly been compiling the story order, Demon Bane, probably knows a bit more about like the reasoning behind the placement. So we're gonna talk to him again, figure it out a bit, and hopefully decide what the next part is going to be before too much time has passed. I'd like to push forward with the updates a bit faster. I still believe it's possible for us to reach the ending of Retrospect. Well, there's a lot to cover. So the ending of the retrospective arc, the original projection was we're going to try and do it by Kyusho's birthday, which is in December. The thing is, we've already spent like roughly half a year getting this far. We're at chapter 8. But after this there come a lot more events. So a lot of event storylines, a lot of world boss storylines, a lot of stuff that just kind of is interspersed between the normal chapters. And the chapters themselves also get longer. Like chapter 8 is, 4 parts maybe? Whereas chapter 9 is much more than that. So whether or not it's achievable to get that far by December, it's not a certainty, we don't know. Hopefully we'll get that fast. Then the Kaguya boss we are talking about, so this may actually be a mislabeled part of the interpreter, we don't know, because sometimes the data kind of messes up a bit. But this is the character Kaguya. She is actually shown in Honkai Impact 3rd, but only briefly. Manga Station. So if you go to the Honkai Impact 3rd Manga Station, we are going to go to the Anti-Entropy Invasion. And it is during one of the battles against the simulations. So in Anti-Entropy Invasion there is a special simulator used by Teresa and Kiana that uses memories to conjure up enemies for the user. Those memories include some of the characters that are exclusive to Guns Girls, including Kaguya, including Chloe, and including Sylphia, I believe her name is. According to what we've seen from the story order, it seems that Sylphia is actually supposed to come before Kaguya, and all of that takes place probably after the introduction of Himiko. So that's chapter 9, I believe. So we're actually going to get to Himiko a lot faster than I thought we would. Then the next talking point, so the cutscene interpreter. So this thing here is actually really useful. It is a tool we use in the translations. And it is created by Amaryllis Works, that is the Same person, also known as Accelerator, also known as the Herrscher of Programming in the Discord server for HoYoStans, and he does a lot of the legwork for our projects. So this interpreter includes multiple languages from the game files directly, and it allows us to look at the Chinese, copy it, use machine translations, send it to people who know Chinese, talk about it, and rework everything into the dialogue for Operation Gecko. Then another project by the same person is Firemoth Replicant. That is still in its baby shoes, but it looks quite promising. That is this project here. And it adapts the Firemoth DLC storyline from Guns Girl Z into a visual novel format. So if this project succeeds as envisioned, by the time Operation Gecko reaches that point in the story, we will refer to this app instead to read it. It's not really sure what it will look like by then. The storyline for Firemoth also takes place way later than the storyline we're covering right now in Operation Gecko. So it'll take some time before these projects actually cross paths with each other. While we're at it, we've created a little collection on itch with some of the projects being done. So Operation Gecko is the one organized within HoYoStans. It's the one I'm personally writing the most for. Bun helps a lot with the translations, Demon Bane helps with the story order stuff, and I make the app. The application is available on itch. It's a download thing. It used to be playable in the web version, however, RenPy is really unstable with its web version, and it didn't work anymore, so we scrapped that version. It's only download now. You can use it on PC or on Android, and it allows you to read through the story chapters we've translated and put into this format. So we added backgrounds, we added the sprites. In the upcoming updates for Operation Gecko, so the next update, we will be reworking the menus. We will be reworking the way the story order is presented, so it's no longer going to be an external link to the HoYoStans website. Instead, within the app, you are going to be guided through the order, so the world bosses are no longer going to be separated from the normal chapters. Events will also be placed within the same order. However, they will be marked as this is an event, this is world boss, so that's still going to be clear. Also going to change up how the stages are referred to, because as it is currently in the app, if you play through a chapter, you'll notice that sometimes a chapter is interrupted with a screen that says play this stage, this stage, this stage. However, for a lot of the chapters this is not going to be doable, because there are things like hidden stages with story content that for some reason is essential. There are events that no longer have story stages available. So instead we will be using a recommendation system where it says, okay, for this chapter it's recommended to play these stages, and then for the boss we specify, okay, this stage for the boss. The next version is only going to cover this part story-wise, this light novel thing. Whilst we figure out the story order for everything that comes after it. What else did I want to cover? Right. So within this collection there's also this here. This is not organized by HoYoStans, the remastered Durandal visual novel. This is made by Sakron, the Honkai historian. He is also on the HoYoStans server. We do talk to him. I don't know if it's a him. I think it's a him. I don't know. We do talk to Sakran on the HoYoStans server. And we put it in this collection because it is a high quality project. It's definitely worth your time. It's still a work in progress, but it looks quite promising. If other projects pop up, we're going to put them in this same collection. And of course, the Guns Girl Z cutscene collection is a project by Chapo, and it kind of has similar goals to Operation Gecko, but rather than a completely reworked application visual novel version of the story, it is more of an automated process where it reads directly from the interpreter. So it depends more on the translations in the interpreter getting fixed for the story to be communicated well. The backgrounds are not customized not customized according to the game, but are just picked appropriately. The application is very smooth. So if I run this, it's a very smooth application. It works in the web. You can just go through it quite easily, and it is very convenient. So we're going to keep looking at the progress of this project, because if the engine develops well enough, we might end up migrating Operation Gecko into a similar engine, but we'll have to see. It's all of the projects we're talking about here are very young, are very work in progress. So it'll all depend on what we see down the line. And then the next talking point, the next talking point is a fun one. Hoyo Clash. So I'm going to open up a different window here. Unity. So a little bit of backstory about myself. A couple of years ago, I studied digital arts and entertainment. That's a special course in Belgium for game development. I was in the indie game development course. However, due to the commute, health reasons, a bunch of stuff, I had to stop the studies, which made me really sad. I do love the industry. I do love making games. I do love that stuff. But I got into a bit of a slump after that. Didn't really invest as much time into maintaining my game development skills as I should have. So I'm kind of relearning a lot of things right now. I'm relearning Unity. And there came to be kind of an idea of what if we made a fan game combining ideas from multiple MiHoYo games. So if we made something like a fighting game, a platformer game, something like that, featuring just cast from all of the MiHoYo games together. Which is, it's to have all of the characters in there would be kind of ridiculous. But it is a really fun thing to play around with. I've started this as a side project, but I think it's promising enough to move it into being one of the main projects. I've been talking about it a lot with Banban. Banban has also been helping on thinking up the effects and stuff. Unity is having a lot of trouble opening right now, so I want to show you guys footage, but it's a bit difficult if the thing doesn't work. So instead I'm going to go to my presentation file, window capture, change it over to, no, it's not it. add a new capture. Window capture, okay. Clip Studio Paint, right? There we go. So the concept is, well, if we had this like Project Mobius, fancy name, if we support the creation of fan games, so if other people want to throw their hat in the ring, make a fan game, if it's high quality enough, we include it in the lineup, we put it on the website, and we try to make sure it gets as much exposure as possible. And the first project we're doing ourselves is HoYoClash. And to give a little bit of visualization of what HoYoClash is meant to be, this is a rough mood board kind of thing, because none of this is definitive. Here's the idea of kind of like, oh, let's have a menu, let's have some game modes. We're going to theme it around the Sea of Quanta, because, well, it's about the HoYoverse as a multiverse. It's like a fighting game, so we'll have a character roster with some initial characters in there, and then slowly expand it, add more stuff over time. Of course, it should have a switch system. It's MiHoYo themed. It needs to have a switching system. So you get to pick 3 characters. You have some basic movesets. The idea of using this pixelated style is that the sprites are a lot easier to make, so we can produce the game at a proper pace without investing too much time in it that should be used for Operation Gecko instead. The basic attack sets are meant to be fairly simplistic. It's mostly a fun thing. It's not meant to be super balanced. And it provides quite a lot of flexibility for presenting the characters. So I actually made a mistake in this display. I used this sprite with Bronya from Honkai Impact 3rd, but this sprite doesn't have the leg prosthetics, and it's Gunsgirl Z Bronya that doesn't have the leg prosthetics, so this should actually be Gunsgirl's Bronya. But I digress. The idea for the project is something wrong here. No, okay. Is that it's meant to be generally quite flexible and simplistic. However, it would of course be fun if down the line we can make it into something that is of genuine quality. But, you know, as any project that is in its baby shoes, time will tell. And then as the final talking point for the news segment, we have some dormant projects. So these are projects that have not started yet, that we want to start soon. Which ones should I mention? Well, one I want to start soon personally is the comic adaptation project. So what is the comic adaptation project? Well, you might be aware of Studio Sinkai. Let me switch the screen again. Oh, Unity has loaded. Let's do that first. Let's have a little look at Unity. Sample scene. No. Is it not working? No, Unity doesn't want to display. That's unfortunate. I'll make some footage separately and share it with you guys at another point. We'll have to make do for now. So some of you may be aware of Studio Sinkai. Studio Sinkai is a fan manga group that does the Hyperfront magazine. And one of their projects, let's see if it's already listed. I don't know if they listed it yet. I don't think they have. We have had contact with them, and they are doing a light novel and manga adaptation of the Honkai Impact 3rd main storyline. So they are creating a new version of that story. Of course, there's a little bit of the influence of the author in there, so when it comes to canon, of course, the game comes first. But it is a nice way to make the story more accessible to other audiences who might not be able to play the game because of circumstances. And we have gotten permission from them as well to display their work on our website, so to say, okay, Studio Sinkai is doing this is what they're doing, go and check it out. However, so they are adapting the main story. The intent for the manga adaptation project, which doesn't have a name yet, with HoYoStans, is to actually make the events into mangas. So if you look at Captain's Bizarre Adventure or the Captainverse, there's the idea of turning this into manga by taking the events, using a relatively simplistic art style to make sure that the production can go at a proper speed, to retell the story in a way that is more accessible for people and less unappealing than watching the recordings of the events. The same would go for Genshin events, so we would look at events from Genshin Impact that have any kind of story content and turn that into comics. Now, the issue with this is, of course, manpower, having enough people to actually do that. And this is why the initial plan is for me to just start some streams, do some character designing, do some basic setup for the first manga in these projects, and then hopefully pick up some more artists along the way. If that doesn't work, project's dead in the water, that's fine, that's just how it is then. But you can't succeed if you don't try. So that is the plan. One of the biggest challenges with this kind of project is that it's all volunteer work, in a sense. Like, the artists are, of course, everybody's credited for these projects. Like, none of us are paid directly. All of us have our names credited in these projects. We can ask for donations, we can put up stuff to ask for those donations. However, it is not nearly as reliable as just selling your work. So for an artist, doing a project as large as a comic adaptation is not always as appealing. However, a lot of fan artists do make their fan creations. We put a lot of time in these projects like Operation Gecko. If I'm someone who's willing to do it, it stands to reason that there's probably someone else who's willing to do it as well. It's only a matter of appetizing people, of getting the idea around to show that there is an infrastructure, there is a group willing to work with you on this. And with that regard, I do think it is possible for us to achieve a lot more. Next to the comic adaptations, I think the same is possible for putting a little bit more focus in the community on the animated fan projects. I know there exist some 2D animated fan projects, but they're not really well known. If we can kind of gather up the people working on that kind of stuff, we can put a little bit more life into that part of the community, put a little bit more of a lens on it, and hopefully get a lot more beautiful creations made by people. Was there another talking point in this? The HoYoDex wiki itself. So after we take a quick break in a bit, we will be heading back into the HoYoDex wiki. Last time we were using the anti-entropy visual novel as the reference for making new pages. We are going to do another stream like that again, where we will focus on the anti-entropy visual novel. However, this time we will be focusing on the Operation Gecko profiles instead. So we are going to look at what we've seen within the confines of the chapters translated for Operation Gecko. We are going to add that information to the characters on the page. And let me just check if there was one last thing. I think that was it for today. So a lot of these things are fledgling projects, baby shoes stuff. Of course, more prepared announcements will be made once these projects have a little bit more oomph to them. But for now, I sincerely hope that you will support us in continuing our work. And I look forward to seeing a lot more of these things come to fruition. And with that being said, I'm going to take a quick break because I've been talking non-stop. The chat hasn't really said anything, or at least it's not displaying for me. I'm not sure if that's because nobody's talking or because it's not working. But there's that. Quick break time. Let me just change this text here to on break. And I'll see you guys in a bit. Hi guys, I'm back. We are back from the break. All right. Right. Let's change the. Oh. Right. It's old. Okay. All right. Now that the news segment is done, I see that nobody is watching live. That makes me sad. Well, it's not like we have a huge net of exposure anyway. I like announced the stream today. So let's just continue like normal and go for the character information. So we are going to be editing the characters that have appeared in Operation Gecko, and we are going to be expanding upon the information in the pages. Right. So I'm gonna have to look at another page to kind of get an idea of the order of information here. So let's go for I'm coming back third Kiana. So history comes after media, right? So after media we're going to put history, and we're going to improve the headline. So I'm going to talk a lot less now because I'll be typing and it's going to be hard to talk and to think of things that are worth saying. And we're just going to be expanding upon the wiki. If you happen to pop into the stream, you want to talk about something, you have a question, don't hesitate to type something in the chat. I'll answer happily. So here we go. Oh, I see someone else popped into the stream again. So I haven't been talking as much because I'm typing. If you have anything you want to say, if you have questions, don't hesitate to type something. I'll make sure to answer. If you could do me a favor and just type something in chat just so I know it actually works, that would be great. Because I haven't seen any messages yet this stream. Oh, great. Thanks for typing a message. It's good to know that it actually works. I was concerned like people could have been typing stuff and I didn't see it. That would have been sad. So the stuff I'm typing right now is from memory. It will be worth going into the application again and revising the text for more detail, for more accuracy. However, that's kind of difficult to do on the stream and will be time consuming, so I'll probably do that off stream. We'll have to see. Either way, like this text will be updated and expanded upon for the next Operation Gecko update as well. Was it me that called her that? I think it was. We'll correct it if it's incorrect. I'm gonna have to do those corrections sometime, like this week or the next, probably next week. So we're gonna improve this text then. I really want to fix like this visual issue where there's no distance between the text and the border. We'll figure it out eventually, but the sooner the better, of course. already forgot what happened in the in the I World Boss story. Like whether or not the fox was actually hostile, stuff like that. Let's have a quick look. Oh, right. We might actually need to rethink where we put the Sakura stuff. No, it's the only place where it actually fits. So as you can see, like, that's already quite a lot of information on these pages. We're going to keep expanding them right now, but I just kind of wanted to point out that the advantage of adding this information along with Operation Gecko's translations is that we can keep them relatively on point. Whereas if we would try to add their history in its entirety, that would be, in the case of the retrospective version of the characters, from 2014 to 2017, so that would be a rough 3 years worth of information. Whereas this here, what's been added here, is like the first few months of story, and those are the slowest months of story. So these pages are going to be massive. It's a lot better that we add this alongside the translations so that we know for sure that the stuff we're adding is relatively correct. Whereas if we add it in its entirety, that will be like 90% information we don't actually know. And that's bad. We don't want to do that. Thankfully, the separate Hokai Gakuen wiki, which is also linked supposedly. Oh, this is still the fandom version. This needs to be changed to the Mirahese version. So those do give summaries of future information. However, that's a separate wiki, so that gives us the advantage of being able to use this wiki to go into more accurate details. So take what's on any wiki concerning information that has not yet been translated with a grain of salt. However, this is already really useful to have. But let's go to the Mirahese version. Because this isn't right. Here we go. This is the right one. So this is actually the new and improved wiki that Max is running. It's a lot cleaner. There's a lot of revision being done on the wiki, a lot of editing, so Max really makes sure that it's a lot more reliable than it used to be. It's a good thing. It's a really useful thing. So let's go to characters. Kiana Kaslana. So this also doesn't really separate the retro and reborn versions of the character. It just kind of puts it all into one thing. Oh right, I didn't mention the nightmare. So let's change this to Mirahese. And Wikipedia doesn't need to be there, it's just Moe Girl. There we go. Yeah. So I also haven't actually added the explanation yet for her role in the 3-year Sakura story. That's because we are going to retranslate the 3-year Sakura story when it is a good time to do so. And when we retranslate it, we will be adding more of the information concerning that manga in here. We will be revising the pages concerning that manga that are already present here. That way it'll be a lot more correct, because the 3 years Sakura story is one of the ones that has the most misconceptions around it. I'm still not used to streaming super long, so I'm probably not going to keep streaming past 4, but we'll see. New to the game, need to expand on things a bit slowly. Right, so let's add the nightmare. here we go. So that's just about everything that's been covered in Operation Gecko for Kiana. As you might notice, a lot of these things don't actually have pages yet. So of course the goal is to give them pages. Now, something that is worth noticing is that the image we've used for Bronia is one of like 2 or 3 official images from way back when that actually feature her leg prosthetics. So if you see the entire image, it has the leg prosthetics. However, if you look at the timeline, at the art they released and at how they released everything and the story, it becomes clear that in the early versions of the art, she has the leg armor and a claw, but it's not specified that those leg things are indeed prosthetics. They could be prosthetics, we don't know. However, a couple of months later, those are dropped from the design, so all the art after that does not actually feature the prosthetics. Retrospective Bronia does not have leg prosthetics. But then they brought back the leg prosthetics for the Honkai Impact 3rd continuity. So starting with the Honkai manga, she does have the leg prosthetics again. Which kind of boggles the mind. If you like try and sort through that, it's really confusing for quite a bit. But yeah, it's a thing. So the Honkai Impact 3rd version has leg prosthetics, but her original does not. So most of this stuff is going to be copied word for May, and a little bit of it for Bronia. So let's start with Bronia. So we're only including information that has been covered within the confines of the translations. So let's head for Bronia. Edit. So oh. Hold up. Alright, so that's Bronia. I'll just I'll do May, and then we're going to leave it at that for the day, because it's becoming a bit long. Of course, Pale Fox still needs her turn. We'll make pages for her shows, for the Hongai, for Shiksal. Some of these, like Shiksal, I'm gonna wait a bit longer until there's like more about it covered in the story. But yeah, like all of these pages are going to be made eventually. I have to add this info, but it's in the file somewhere. I'm gonna have to look it up. Like it's explained in the translator's note and stuff. I don't remember what chapter it was. I'm gonna have to check the scenes in the app again to make sure that this was actually correct. I believe this was the title she was given. Might have to change it if it wasn't the title she was given. Man, I can sense that I'm losing my voice. I am aware that there is almost with 100% certainty a segment going to come in the story where they explain that May was actually implanted with a Hersher core during her kidnapping, and that's why she became a Hersher. However, we haven't reached such a point in the translation, so I'm just going to put it down the information you would know from the translations. Oh, hi, Glyphic. We're not going to go much longer on the stream, so I do suggest after it's over winding it back to see like the new stuff from at the beginning. I'm glad you like it. Wait, what? K4 to 3? Why? That shouldn't be here. Yeah, I'm adding the information that has been covered in the translations from Gecko in the HoYoDex pages. Is there a K4 to 3 here? Maybe it's just because of the numbers. No. So there's, for instance, this thing where May has been abducted in the past before she became a Hersher. And it's like we know that that's probably going to lead into the same thing as in Honkai Impact, where it's like, okay, she had a Hersher gem implanted, but we haven't actually gotten to such a point in the translations. So we are not including that information here because, well, it could turn out to be incorrect because we've already discovered a lot with the translations where the things we thought were correct about the Guns Girls storyline were in fact incorrect. Stuff like, oh, for instance, Bronya doesn't have leg prosthetics. But we're not gonna, like, we're gonna finish up May's page here and then we are going to end the stream for the day. So we're mostly cleaning up the text here, adding little bits that might be missing. Alright, I should put another warning up here, the trigger warning, because this stuff gets dark. This thing here. And with her. No, she's not a robot. Oh, hi, Sari. So the idea with these pages is that if you look at any one character's page, you should be able to follow most of the story, like most of their history, chronologically. There is the problem with this that as someone who knows the story, it's a lot more clear what is being communicated. So if you don't know the story, it might not be as well written, might not be as obvious what's actually being said. It's also the reason that we're doing it like this is because the wiki largely exists for people who want to discover more of these worlds without necessarily being able to properly play and read everything the games have to offer. And that's also why if you go, for instance, to the 3-year Sakura manga, you're not going to see a summary of the story, but you're just going to see a summary of the characters involved. Whereas if you click through to the characters, that's where it's going to give an explanation of that character's story, including the part covered by that manga. This part is going to be a lot faster because it's virtually the same for Kiana and Mei. They experience the same parts. Yeah, the Sakura EX manga seems to be the only one that almost in its entirety, there are a couple of inconsistencies, but almost in its entirety fits within the Guns, Girls and Honkai Impact 3rd continuity. The only other manga that does this is the 3A Sakura manga. That one also fits in its entirety in both continuities. All of the other manga just don't fit in both continuities. They are clearly separate. They cannot be mixed. The biggest point of contention there is the Azure Waters manga because it's still available on the Japanese website for the Hokai Gakuen manga. However, it's still labeled as Honkai Impact 3rd, and there Bronya clearly has the leg prosthetics where she doesn't in Guns, Girls. it's kind of interesting, like May, as she's characterized before the Honkai Impact 3rd Hersher transformation, is kind of often considered to be a very passive character. But when you look at her characterization here in Guns Girls, sure, she is a lot more passive in personality than Kiana is, but she is quite often the driving factor in getting them to detour, because Kiana is not nearly as interested in getting involved in everything, but May is always concerned about things like, we need to help this person, we need to figure this out, and she's a lot more often the active character in making decisions like that, which is an interesting dynamic to have, considering Kiana is a lot more straightforward, a lot more, okay, let's do this, than May is. let's leave it at this for today. We've done quite a lot. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We've actually had more people popping in and out than I thought, so that's great. If you haven't seen the start, I recommend looking back to the start of the VOD where we talk a bit about the plans and the news. And I hope to see you next time. I'll be sure to make announcements for the projects when they are ready. And yeah, have a good day. Now I just need to find the button again for stopping the live stream. Yeah, here it is. Bye guys.